The steel door slammed shut behind the guards. Inside the dim cell block, every inmate froze. A tall, heavily tattooed man named Marcus Bone Crusher Vale stood in the center of the tier, holding nothing but a folded note, but every prisoner around him looked terrified. He didn't shout. He didn't fight. He didn't even move. He opened the small piece of paper, read one quiet sentence, and suddenly dozens of inmates from 3 different gangs stepped back like they were clearing space for a king. Then, without warning, one of the biggest gang leaders in the prison knelt in front of Marcus. A hush spread across the block. This man, someone feared for years, looked up at Marcus and whispered, "Your order is done." And just like that, the entire cell block moved on Marcus's command. But what gave him this power? Why would men twice his size obey him without question? And what was written on that tiny note that made the most violent prisoners fall in line? To understand that, we have to go back to where it all began. Marcus Vale didn't start as the strongest man in the prison. In fact, when he first walked into Blackridge State Penitentiary, the guards barely noticed him. He kept his head down, carried a cheap plastic bag of state clothes, and avoided eye contact. But inside, the inmates noticed everything. The gangs controlled every hallway, the Red Vipers, the Iron Wolves, and the Black Serpents. They watched newcomers like hungry animals. On his first day, Marcus was placed in a cell with Reggie, a quiet inmate who had already done 10 years. Reggie leaned close and whispered, "Stay low. Don't talk. And whatever you do, don't look the wolves in the eyes." Marcus nodded. But even then, something about him felt different. He didn't look scared, just calm. Too calm. 3 days later, Marcus walked through the yard during chow time. The Iron Wolves were gathered by the basketball court, and their leader, Dane Hollow, stared at Marcus like he had already chosen him as prey. Dane stepped forward, blocking his path. "New guy," he said, grinning. "Let's see what you're made of." The yard went quiet. Marcus looked at him and said nothing. Dane snatched Marcus's tray, threw it across the yard, and shoved him back. That's when it happened. Marcus didn't swing. He didn't raise his voice. He just stepped close, too close, and said in a calm, soft voice, "You don't want to do that." For a moment, Dane's grin faded. Something in Marcus's eyes wasn't normal. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was something worse. Something dangerous. Before Dane could react, a guard blew his whistle, stopping the moment. The crowd scattered. Marcus walked away like nothing happened. But that was the moment the gangs started whispering his name. Life went back to normal. Well, as normal as prison can be. Marcus read books. He worked in the laundry. He barely spoke. But every day, more inmates watched him. Some were curious. Some were scared. Some wanted him gone. Reggie warned him. People here don't like mysteries. They like power. And they like threats. You're starting to look like both. Marcus just nodded. One night, the shower block was nearly empty. Steam filled the room, and water echoed off the tiles. Marcus was alone. At least he thought he was. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then 4 masked inmates stepped out from behind the steam, armed with makeshift shanks. No words. No threats. No warning. They rushed him. Marcus backed against the wall. And that was the moment everything changed. One attacker swung the first blade. The blade flashed toward Marcus's ribs. But instead of panicking, Marcus moved with a quick step to the side. The first attacker's shank scraped the tiles, sparks flying. The second attacker charged from the left, swinging wildly. Marcus grabbed the man's wrist, twisted sharply, and the shank clattered to the wet floor. The masked inmate screamed as Marcus shoved him back into the wall. The steam swirled around them as the third and fourth attackers closed in fast. One swung a broken metal pipe toward Marcus's head. Marcus ducked, the pipe smashing into the shower knob, spraying water everywhere. The room was chaos. But Marcus fought like someone who had done this before. His movements were quiet, sharp, controlled. Inmates didn't fight like this. Soldiers did. Or something even worse. He blocked another swing, elbowed the attacker in the jaw, then kicked the last one's knee out from under him. All 4 men hit the slippery floor. Marcus stood over them, breathing slowly as if none of this surprised him. Then, boom, the door to the shower block burst open. 2 guards stormed in. They froze at the sight, for masked inmates groaning on the ground, and Marcus standing alone, untouched. The guards yelled, "Vale, hands where we can see them." Now, Marcus raised his hands calmly, but everyone watching knew this wasn't a random attack. Someone had sent those men, and Marcus wasn't supposed to survive. The question now was, who ordered the hit, and why had Marcus suddenly become a threat? After 3 days, the warden ordered Marcus released back to general population. When he walked into the cell block, the entire room went quiet. Men looked at him with wide eyes. Some stepped aside. Some whispered to each other. Some stared like they were seeing a ghost. Even Dane Hollow, the same man who had tried to bully Marcus on the yard, didn't say a word when Marcus passed him. Reggie walked beside Marcus, whispering, "You understand what just happened? People think you took out 4 men alone. That kind of thing spreads fast. Too fast." Marcus still didn't talk much, but the way he walked made the gangs uneasy. Something about him didn't fit inside prison walls. Something in him was darker, older, more dangerous. That night, Marcus returned to his cell. For the first time all day, he was alone. Reggie was at the infirmary on a cleaning assignment, so Marcus sat on the lower bunk. He was about to lie down when he felt something under his pillow. A folded note. No name. No marking. Just one sentence, written in a rushed, shaky hand. "We know who you are." Marcus stared at the note for a long moment. Then the hallway lights flickered again, and a shadow moved past his cell. The chapter ends here. Marcus didn't react. He didn't stand. He didn't call for a guard. He didn't even look toward the door. He just let the note rest in his hand as the shadow outside his cell paused. Like someone was watching him. The hallway was silent. Too silent. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, the shadow moved on, soft footsteps fading down the tier. Marcus folded the note again and slid it into the waistband of his pants. His face stayed calm, but this was the first time something actually bothered him. Because whoever wrote the note didn't threaten him. They didn't insult him. They didn't ask for anything. They claimed to know him. And that meant they knew something no one else in Blackridge should know. Something from his past. Something he had buried. The next morning, the chow hall buzzed with gossip. Everyone had heard about the shower fight. Everyone had heard that Marcus went to the hole and came back unharmed. But now they were whispering about the note. As Marcus walked through the line, men stepped aside, pretending they weren't staring. Reggie leaned over his tray and whispered, "People talking like you're some kind of ghost. Like you're not supposed to be alive." Marcus kept eating quietly. Reggie forced a nervous smile. "Look, if somebody knows your past, that ain't small. This place runs on secrets. If somebody knows yours, that means they've been watching you way before you got here." Marcus put his fork down. "Who told you about the note?" Reggie blinked. "I didn't." Marcus stared at him, and Reggie froze. He hadn't told anyone, and yet everyone knew. That meant someone had been in Marcus's cell. Someone had planted the note, and then made sure the entire prison heard about it. Someone wanted Marcus to feel watched, not attacked, targeted. Later that day, Marcus returned to the yard. The Red Vipers, known for being the most violent gang in Blackridge, were huddled by the weight benches. Their leader, a scarred man named Silas Cruz, raised a hand as Marcus approached. "Vale," he said calmly. "We need to talk." Marcus didn't stop walking. Silas stepped in front of him. This gang was famous for breaking jaws, stabbing rivals in the showers, and running half the contraband in the prison. Normally, no one refused a meeting with Silas Cruz. But Marcus didn't even slow down. Silas frowned. "You're making enemies quick," Silas whispered. "But you're making friends even quicker. Something's shifting in here. People are listening to you." Marcus replied quietly, "They're listening to the wrong person." Silas smirked. "Oh, I don't think so. They see the way you move, the way you fight. They know you ain't normal. And men like that, men like you don't come around often. Marcus stepped past him without another word. Silas called after him. Sooner or later, you'll need allies or this place will eat you alive. Night came again. Lights went out. The cell block fell into that eerie silence every prisoner knows. Marcus lay on his bunk, staring at the dark ceiling, listening, waiting, thinking. Then, bang. A loud crash echoed through the hallway. Guards yelled. Keys clanked. Boots stomped across concrete. Marcus sat up. Reggie rushed into the cell, pale and sweating. Marcus, you need to see this. Now. They stepped into the hallway where inmates were whispering and pointing toward the far end of the tier. On the wall, written in thick dark red paint, were 3 chilling words. We are close. And, under it, a handprint. Not painted. Real. Bloody. Marcus stared at it, his jaw tightening slightly. Someone wasn't just threatening him anymore. Someone was getting closer. Someone was hunting him. Marcus stepped closer to the wall, the crowd of inmates parting as he moved. The bloody handprint was fresh, still wet. The red streaks dripped slowly toward the floor. The guards were panicking, shouting at everyone to get back, but nobody listened. Everyone was watching Marcus, waiting to see how he reacted. Reggie whispered shakily, "Man, that's real blood. Whoever did this, they ain't playing." Marcus didn't answer. He leaned in and studied the handprint. It was small. Not the hand of a large man. Maybe someone fast. Someone who could move through the cell block without being noticed. Someone who wanted Marcus to see this before anyone cleaned it up. Then a guard grabbed Marcus's shoulder. "You. Back to your cell. Now." Marcus didn't resist. He just glanced at the guard, and something about the look in Marcus's eyes made the guard step back like he had touched fire. Marcus walked away, but everyone in the hallway felt it. The hunter had made a move. Now, the hunted was watching back. The next morning, Marcus was pulled from his cell and escorted to the warden's office. Warden Kepler sat behind his desk, tapping a pen nervously. "Vale," he began, "you've been here less than a month, and already the prison is cracking like glass." Marcus stayed silent. Kepler continued, "For men jump you in the shower and end up hospitalized. Someone sneaks into your cell. Someone paints threats in blood on my walls." He leaned forward. "Who are you?" Marcus stared at him with the same calm, blank expression. "Nobody." The warden slammed his fist on the desk. "Don't play with me. My officers are scared. The inmates are talking like you're some kind of legend. I won't let one man tear this place apart." Marcus didn't blink. "You already lost control of this place a long time ago." Kepler's face twitched, but he said nothing. After a long stare down, he pointed to the door. "Get him out of my office." As Marcus was escorted back to the block, the guards kept glancing at him like they were standing next to a ticking bomb. Later that night, Reggie sat on the edge of the bunk, whispering urgently, "You got the vipers watching you. The wolves watching you. The serpents? Man, they watching the watchers." Marcus leaned back against the wall, eyes half closed. Reggie swallowed hard. "Whoever wrote that note, whoever left that blood message, they're trying to smoke you out. They want you to react." Marcus finally spoke. "They want something else." Reggie frowned. "What?" Marcus opened his eyes. "They want me to remember." Reggie stared like he didn't understand. Before he could ask another question, ding, lights out. The block went dark, and the silence felt heavy, too heavy. Sometime after midnight, Marcus sat up. He heard it, a soft creaking sound like someone walking slowly on metal. Reggie was asleep, snoring lightly. Marcus stepped to the bars and looked up toward the top tier. At first, he saw nothing. Then, a figure stepped out of the shadows. A small man, slim, wearing a prison uniform but no shoes. His feet were silent on the metal walkway. He stared down at Marcus with glowing, unblinking eyes, like he wasn't human. Then he lifted his hand. In it was another note. He dropped it. The paper floated down, landing right at Marcus's feet. The man whispered, barely audible, "You can't hide anymore." Then he stepped backward into the darkness and vanished. Marcus bent down, picked up the note, opened it. His eyes narrowed. Reggie woke up groggy and mumbled, "What's going on, man?" Marcus looked at him. Calm voice. Flat tone. "He's here." Reggie sat up instantly. "Who's here?" Marcus folded the note slowly. "The man who trained me." And the chapter ends right there. Reggie's face went pale. "The man who trained you? Trained you for what?" Marcus didn't blink. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look shaken. But his words were cold enough to freeze the air in the cell. "For everything I know how to do." Reggie swallowed hard. "Bro, you talkin' like you was in some secret school or something." Marcus didn't answer. He sat on the lower bunk, elbows on his knees, staring down at the note the strange man dropped. Reggie came closer. "What does it say?" Marcus read it again before answering. "It says, 'Finish what you started.'" Reggie's eyes widened. "Finish what?" "Marcus, what is happening? Who is this guy? Why is he in here?" Marcus finally looked up, and even in the dim light, Reggie could see fear. Not for himself, for someone else. "He's not supposed to be alive," Marcus murmured. "But if he's here, then someone brought him in. And if someone brought him in..." Before he could finish, a loud whistle blew from the guard tower. "Inmates, prepare for morning count." But it was still the middle of the night. Something was wrong. Guards marched down the tier, banging batons against bars. "Everyone stand up. Stand by your doors." Reggie whispered, "This ain't normal. They only do fake counts when something bad is happening." Marcus stood quietly at the bars. His eyes drifted back to the top tier. The man who dropped the note was gone. Completely gone. Then Marcus noticed something else. 2 guards were missing. And the remaining guards looked nervous, too nervous. One of them couldn't stop shaking. "Reggie," Marcus whispered, "don't move. Something's coming." Reggie pressed against the wall, shaking. "Something like what?" Suddenly, boom. A deafening noise exploded somewhere in the lower block. The lights flickered. Sirens wailed. Guards started yelling into radios. "Inmate down. We have an inmate down." Reggie jumped. "Oh no, what now?" Marcus didn't move. He didn't flinch. He listened. Someone was running. Fast. Up the stairs. Straight toward their tier. The Iron Wolves appeared at the far end of the hall, moving in a tight formation. Their leader, Dane Hollow, stepped forward with a long metal pipe in his hand. His face was twisted with fear and anger. "Vale," he shouted, voice echoing off the concrete. "Tonight you die." Reggie gasped. The runner bolted the other way. Dane lifted the pipe. "Wolves, move." Dozens of inmates surged forward, roaring, breaking into a full sprint toward Marcus's cell. Reggie pressed against the wall, trembling. "Marcus, Marcus, do something." Marcus stepped out of the cell, calm as ever. The wolves thundered closer. 10 feet. 8 feet. 5. Suddenly, a figure dropped from the top tier, like a shadow falling out of the ceiling. The barefoot man. The one with the glowing eyes. He landed silently in front of Marcus, blocking the wolves' path. Just as Marcus whispered, "He trained me. Now he's here for them." The wolves skidded to a stop. None of them expected someone to drop from the upper tier like a creature out of a nightmare. The barefoot man stood perfectly still, his head slightly tilted, his eyes locked on Dane Hollow. Reggie whispered, voice shaking, Who is he?" Marcus answered quietly, "His name is Cade. He taught me everything about fighting, surviving, and controlling dangerous men." Reggie stared. "You mean he's like you?" Marcus shook his head. "No, he's worse." Cade raised one hand. That was all. The entire tier went silent. Even Dane Hollow, who never feared anything, took a step back. Cade spoke in a voice that was almost calm, but too cold to be human. "You think you can kill him," he said. "You can't. You can't even get close." Dane's grip tightened on the metal pipe. "We ain't scared of you." Cade's smile was tiny, sharp. "Wrong. You should be." For a moment, nobody moved. The wolves stood in a tight group, unsure. The other inmates watched from their cells, wide-eyed. Even the guards didn't dare rush in. Reggie grabbed Marcus's arm. Hey, we should run. Right? Marcus? Marcus. Marcus didn't move. Running won't stop this, he said. It has to end now. Reggie swallowed. And how? Marcus looked at the wolves, then at Cade. By showing them the truth. Dane hollow screamed. Wolves attack. The gang charged again. Cade stepped forward without fear. And the hallway exploded into chaos. He moved so fast the wolves couldn't see his arms. Every strike was silent. Every movement was clean, precise, deadly. One by one, wolves hit the floor, groaning, bleeding, dropping their weapons, without Cade ever breaking a sweat. The final hit came when Cade grabbed Dane by the collar and slammed him into the bars with one brutal twist. Dane slid down the metal, eyes wide, pipe clattering to the floor. The wolves were done, defeated, completely broken. The entire block stared at Marcus, because Cade wasn't looking at Dane anymore. He was staring at him. Cade walked toward Marcus slowly. Reggie backed into the cell, terrified. Cade stopped inches from Marcus. You hid from me, Cade whispered. You tried to live quiet. You thought you were done. Marcus didn't reply. Cade leaned closer. But you can't run from what you are. You're meant to lead, meant to control, meant to rule men like them. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's not me anymore. Cade smirked. It doesn't matter what you want. They already follow you. Marcus looked around. Every inmate was watching him with the same expression. Fear, respect, obedience. Even the wolves. Cade nodded, satisfied. You didn't take this prison, he said. They gave it to you. And now you must finish what you started. Marcus's voice was calm. I won't. Cade's smile vanished. That's too bad. He reached for Marcus's throat. And that was his mistake. Marcus grabbed his wrist, twisted, and slammed Cade against the bars with a force that shook the entire tier. Cade fell to the floor, stunned. Marcus stood over him. The old me died before I got here, Marcus said quietly. This time I choose who I am. Guards finally rushed into the block, shouting, swinging batons, trying to regain control. But they didn't have to. The inmates stepped back. The wolves surrendered. The tier fell into perfect silence. Every eye was on Marcus. Not Cade. Not the wolves. Not the guards. Marcus. Reggie whispered. You did it. You stopped him. You stopped everything. Marcus didn't answer. He stared at Cade, who was being dragged away by guards, still smiling like he knew something nobody else did. As the guards cuffed Marcus too, standard procedure after a riot. Inmates whispered through the bars. Vale runs this place. He broke the wolves. Nobody touches him. He's the one now. Marcus closed his eyes. He didn't want power. He didn't ask for a gang. He didn't want followers. But in a prison like Blackridge, strength wasn't chosen. It was given. And that night, everyone understood. The most violent inmates didn't control the prison. The most dangerous mind did. And that mind belonged to Marcus Vale. That was the beginning and the end of how one man became the quiet ruler of the most violent prison in the state.